A reading from the Gospel according to Matthew. When the Son of Man comes in his glory and all angels with him, he will sit on his glorious throne. All nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate the people one from another as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. He will put the sheep on his right hand and the goats on his left. Then the king will say to those on his right, "Come, for you are blessed by my Father. Take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me." Then the righteous will answer him, "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go to visit you?" The king will reply, "Truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these, my brothers and sisters of mine, you did it for me." Then he will say to those on his left, "Depart from me, you who are cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, and you gave me nothing to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me nothing to drink. I was a stranger, and you did not invite me in. I needed clothes, and you did not clothe me. I was sick and in prison, and you did not look after me." Then they also will answer, "When did we see you hungry or thirsty or a stranger or needing clothes or sick or in prison and did not help you?" And he will reply, "Truly, I tell you, whatever you did not do for one of the least of these, you did not do it for me." And then they will go away to eternal punishment, but the righteous to eternal life. Christians, especially around this time of year, start talking about hellfire. Jesus was very clear who would be inheriting that hellfire. He's had a lot of things to say on this Tuesday. We're going to talk about as much as we can as we go into the Olivet Discourse today, as we walk together down Creation's path. Hello, everyone. My name is Charlie. I am a Christopagan druid and priest of Bridget.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brian. I'm a Christopagan druid and sous chef to the Dog Dog.
Today, we are going to be talking about what happened on Tuesday. Okay, we're going to have to be very careful and selective about this because a lot happened on this day. This is probably the one day out of this final week of Jesus's life where we have the most written about. And we could literally do probably a month just on all the things that happened in this day. So if we don't get to your favorite parable or one of the parables that you wish we would have talked about, do let us know in the comments so we can do a special episode on that, because literally we could do an entire month just on Matthew 25.
Just today alone, the two of us had probably over an hour-long conversation just talking about the events that happened that morning and afternoon. Not even what happened. This is all before going up on the Mount of Olives.
Yeah, because this day covers Matthew 24 and 25, as well as other passages in the other three Gospels that parallel this time period. But a lot happens, and we're going to have to... I want to focus on that last one because I think it's the most important for us right now. But we're actually going to start with something that happened earlier in the day and then get back to this one. But before we get into all that, if you haven't already, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, whatever the terminology happens to be on whatever the app is you're listening to us on. We do 5 original Christopagan and Druid episodes Monday through Friday, except during Holy Week, where we're doing the entire week from Palm Sunday to Easter Sunday. New episode every day. You don't want to miss a thing. We have a lot going on. All right, let's just get into it. Before we actually get into the events of the discourse that culminate in that fiery parable that I read at the beginning of this episode, we have what is often referred to as the parable of the fig tree. And I think that's so misleading because there actually is a parable of the fig tree, and this is not it, though I've heard it called this a lot. The day starts with Jesus and the disciples heading into Jerusalem on this Tuesday of Holy Week, And on the way in, Jesus sees a fig tree and thinks to himself, "Ooh, it's that time of year. There should be ripe, yummy figs on this tree." And he goes over to get a fig. There are no figs on the tree, and he curses the tree because it's the time of year. It looked like it should have figs on it. It does not have figs on it. And they go into town. He gets into some fights with some religious leaders, like verbal ones, who are like, "Who do you think you are?" And he's just like, "I don't know. Who do they say that I am?" Wink. Sorry, I have a problem. I see Jesus as very sarcastic. I have a hard time reading a lot of the sayings of Jesus without like full on sarcasm in them.
And mind you, this is the day after all the events in the temple.
Yes.
Like,
So
this all into context. This is the morning after the day of the events in the temple. So, of course, the Pharisees and Sadducees are all worked up now because this rabbi just went in there and created a whole big scene.
what gives you the right? What gives you the authority? Who do you think you are? Yeah. And so Jesus is coming back with the disciples after all of that ruckus. And like I said, we could spend a month on this day alone because we're going to pass by everything that happened in between. And on the way back, the disciples look over and they see the tree that Jesus cursed that morning. And they're like, "Jesus, that tree's dead." And he's, "Yeah, it had one job, and that was to produce fruit, and it didn't do it." Yeah. And he took them up on the Mount of Olives. And that's where he gives what we refer to as the Olivet Discourse, where he is teaching them through a whole series of parables what is the kingdom and what is our responsibility in the kingdom. These range from everything of not thinking that you're so special because those people that came into the movement early will receive the same reward as the people who came in late. So don't think you're going to get extra just because you were here longer. I think a lot of, especially modern day Christians, need to hear that. He talks about, this is where we find the parable of the talents. So to much whom is given, much will be required. This is where we find the parable where he talks about the servants who hide the money that they're given because they know that their master is a cruel man and that he just wants his money back. And he's like, "But I give you money to invest and make more money with, and you did nothing with it. You hid it. You're the bad guy here. Go, bye." So this is very much an entire chapter of you need to be doing the work. You need to be doing the work. Don't think you're greater than anybody else. Everybody is equal, but we all need to be doing the work. And then to bring this home, we have this barn burner of a parable at the end. And I call it a parable. Some people refer to this as a prophecy. I see this as a parable because it's nestled in a whole bunch of parables. Like it's parable after parable. And it's actually the end of the parable that preceded it. It's the end credits for another parable. But it is, to me, the summation of all of Jesus's teachings. We saw this when we talked about the Sermon on the Mount. We've talked about this throughout Jesus's teaching, how we are here to help one another, to take care of those who are less fortunate than us, and not to take advantage of anybody. That we're not here to puff up our own egos. We're not here to just take care of ourselves and our own. We're here to make sure that everybody has enough and to stop hoarding wealth and to stop hoarding power and to stop thinking that we're better than everybody else. Like Jesus's teachings are so clear about this. And just this wonderful moment of, just in case you don't understand, if you're not taking care of other people, that's why you will go to hell.
I almost feel like this is a very interesting bookend situation too, when looking at the day, because what some mistakenly call the parable of the fig tree, it's the demonstration of the fig tree.
Yes.
Maybe that'll help me get that into my head. Is you start with this first part of the demonstration of the fig tree. Then he gives this parable. I think it's so telling, and this parable gets missed so much because it's one of the parables of the vineyard. And I think for a lot of people, the parables of the vineyard kind of run together in their head. But this one is so telling. And then when you couple that parable as a bookend with the last parable, the Sermon on the Mount of Olives, it really does show. And then you have this demonstration of the fig tree as part of that, just like backing that whole thing up, just going, oh, and here, I showed you, here's a demonstration, live demonstration, verbo witness. Be glad it's a fig tree and not a person.
It's also the ultimate bookend of his messianic career, because we have at the very beginning of the story him going into the synagogue and reading from the scroll of Isaiah, the mission that he is called to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
To feed the hungry, give water to the thirsty, to heal the crushed, to bring sight to the blind and hearing to the deaf, and to proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord. We see him proclaim this as the mission very early on. This passage usually comes either just before or just after he goes out into on his public ministry. It's almost always the first thing that he does in his ministry is basically proclaim him the Messiah, because he reads this passage and he just looks at the crowd, and I like to think with a smug look on his face, says, "This prophecy has been fulfilled in your hearing." And they all just like, "Rah," and he just walks out. And of course, in one version of the story, they try to stone him to death, but this is the beginning, the proclamation of his ministry. And here at the very end, and we know he is about to die. And I've said this since our first episode on Holy Week, and I've said this for years. I believe Jesus knew that he was going to die.
Yeah.
Like, the actions he takes are setting up a final confrontation with Rome. He knows the end is coming.
That's why I mentioned even the parable that he tells in response to the religious authorities coming after him in town earlier that day. That parable of the vineyard is where the person buys a vineyard, sets it all up, and then leaves it in stewardship to others. And then when it comes time to collect the harvest, the fruits of their labor, of the stewards of the vineyard, he sends the servants to collect the fruits, and they kill them.
This parable is
He
so
sends
poignant.
more servants, and they kill them. This whole collection of servants, and they kill them. Then he sends his only son. It's Jesus literally going, "Here, I'm being sent, and I'm going to be killed by these same stewards of the vineyard."
Yep. Like,
This is him basically saying it right here at this point. Like, when you're talking about he himself knowing, like, this is further demonstration of that, because he's literally on Tuesday early afternoon telling this story about how he's going to be killed by these same religious authority figures that are all yelling at him. Because after he finishes the parable, it even says that the religious authority figures got mad because they realized, "Oh, we're the stewards of the vineyard and you're being sassy to us, saying we're going to kill you." And it's, they're going to kill him. They're going to murder him before the week's up. We'll have him murdered.
But it's really important to realize that when he's listing how they're killing the various servants, there were stories at the time that were very popular about the martyrdom of the prophets. And there is a traditional story about how every prophet was eventually murdered. And that's what he's actually recounting here. The first three that he goes into and specifically says how they killed each one, that's how Jeremiah is supposed to have died. That is how, was it Nahum? I'm losing names right now in my head, but that's how 3 prophets were said to have died, like the earliest 3 prophets leading into and up into the exile, the first set of prophets. He, of course, skips Isaiah because the story of how Isaiah died is just too gruesome to recount. I am not going to do it. I refuse to do it. You look it up if you want to. You will have nightmares. Don't do it. It's bad. It's very bad. They, according to tradition, did very bad things to Isaiah. But those stories of the martyrdom of the prophets were told amongst the people, and we have many versions of those stories written down. So it would have been even more biting, because they would have realized when he's talking about the servants, they were able in their heads to put the names to each prophet as he's telling the story in the way that he's telling it. And here's the whole point of what is going on here. Jesus is trying to make sure that people do not miss the point of his ministry. And it hurts me so much that Christians would then go on to miss the entire point of his ministry because Paul distracted them all. Because even Paul, and see, I can't really blame it on Paul, just to be honest with you. Paul gets a lot of blame that Paul doesn't deserve. It's the interpretations of Paul, because they selectively read Paul, and then the letters.
Well, also, a lot of it's also the pseudo-Paul stuff.
But even the stuff that he did write, there's a lot of selective reading going on, because Paul is constantly going on about how we need to take care of the poor and the widow and the orphan. We need to take care of those that are more unfortunate than us. And this is a constant theme, even in Paul's writings, that gets skipped over. And Paul is also one who is constantly preaching that we should not be legalistic. In his letter to the Romans, which I love how it is so wildly taken out of context, where he literally, of the, I think, 16 chapters that we break the letter to the Romans into, depending on how you want to count them, 5 to 8 of them are explaining why legalism is bad, why we are not under the letter of the law, and that you should not use any concept of the law or righteousness to see yourself as good or others as bad, and how we are under the Spirit now, and that the law doesn't help us actually be better people. It just gives us a weapon that we can wield against other people, and that's bad. So much of this book is about that, but of course, selective reading, right? Paul's teachings actually align with historical Jesus a lot more than people give him credit for, because all the passages people know from Paul are the ones that are selectively read to give the imperial church power, because, he was a Roman citizen, and that's all in there too. Not to mention the ones that get at it. But Jesus's entire was to bring about the messianic kingdom now. The interesting distinction in Jesus's teachings, which is where you see the misunderstanding come in by the time Paul is writing, all the teachings that I feel we can trace back to the historical Jesus, because we see versions of them in not just the canonical gospels, but even in the Gospel of Thomas, which I think was probably written around the same time as the Gospel of John, personally. All teaches that the world has already ended and that the kingdom has come, that the messianic kingdom is here, and that the kingdom is not of this world, that the problem has always been trying to set up an earthly kingdom because power corrupts. And you don't want to give that much authority and power to a person or to a lineage that will end up abusing it, which again is very in line with the teachings of the prophets. We did a wonderful episode about God's feelings about kings. If you want to go back and read that, spoiler, God does not like kings, until Josiah decides to have some books written that they're like, yeah, God loves kings. Yeah, anyway, but there is such a clear message here that we are supposed to be taking care of each other, that the messianic kingdom, as Jesus says earlier, will not come through expectation. They will never say, lo, here it is, or lo, there it is, for the kingdom of God is spread out. And if you actually look at the teachings in the Olivet Discourse, he's actually talking about how you can be exiled from the kingdom. The purpose of these is not some future date. They're about now. The Son of Man is already in his throne of glory. That happened during the Transfiguration, where Jesus, Moses, and Elijah were sitting there talking to each other in full view of the apostles. This messianic kingdom is here. It has already happened. The end of times has come. And Jesus is very clear about that all throughout the Gospels. Like I said, I truly believe that, because we even see it in Thomas and some of the other Gospels that are not included in the canon. It's later generations that start putting in this expectation that the kingdom will come. That's a problem. And yet we can talk about, what about when Jesus said, pray that the troubles do not come at night? Yeah, you don't want the empire coming and cracking down on you at night. You really don't want that. You don't want the powers that be that are warring against the kingdom coming at you at night. That's not going to be good for anybody. Again, these are passages that are being taken out of their original context in an attempt to put the kingdom into the future, because the great disappointment is that they want the kingdom to magically appear on earth. They want a human or divine being to sit on a literal throne in a literal palace in a literal city and magically make everything better. And that requires absolute tyranny and the abolishment of free will. And Jesus is very clear. The kingdom already is here. We're all already living in it. Who's included and who's excluded? If you're taking care of each other, you're in the kingdom. If you are not taking care of each other, you are on the outside of it. You have exiled yourself beyond it. If you're trying to steal the kingdom, you're outside. You're on the outside. I don't know what I can tell you. If you're not doing the work, you're on the outside. If you're not actually trying to make life better for everyone else, you're on the outside.
If you want to be a good fig tree, bear good fruit. But don't be the worst kind of fig tree of, it's time to be bearing good fruit and going, no, I'm just going to sit here.
Which you can see Paul echo that teaching in his own by talking about the fruit of the Spirit, that we all must be about cultivating the fruit of the Spirit, which are all things that make us better to be around other people and more helpful to one another. Every single one of them. Peace, compassion, like patience. Good Lord, if everybody could just grow some patience.
Yeah, and that's what's so neat about a lot of the parables in this part, is that so much of it is about, here's how you be good steward of taking care of your kingdom. Here's what you need to do. Here's how to do it. This is what it's all about, what you do and how you do it now, not some future date. In fact, actually, there's the parable there, like with when the servants that were entrusted with money, that whole parable is about the one that took the promise of the kingdom and buried it, took the money and buried it, and then came back and said, here, look, see, I saved it. I did nothing with it. That's the one that's scolded and called a bad servant. They had it all taken away. Because the whole point is to go, the kingdom is here, it's now, and each of us doing our individual part, the part that we have control over in bearing that fruit of the kingdom in each of our personal lives.
I can hear the arguments now, but Charlie, didn't Jesus say there will be two in the field and one will be taken and one will be left? There will be two at the threshing floor and one will be taken and one will be left? Yes, he did. Reread the beginning and ending of that story, please, because God's not the one taking them.
Yeah.
God's not the one. For all the people that want to read the rapture into this, and remember, the rapture doesn't come about till Darby, and that's really the 1700s that the rapture becomes a thing. Those passages are very clear that the deceiver is taking people. And why are they disappearing? Why are they being taken? If we are already in the kingdom, and Jesus is very clear about who's in the kingdom and how you get taken out of the kingdom, like honestly, the great horror of my life is watching this parable, this prophecy happening around me right now. Because I'm seeing all of these people who claim to be in the church, who claim to be speaking for Jesus. They claim to be Christian, being taken one by one. They're being taken.
Yeah. Paula White, supposed to be in the church, supposed to be of God, supposed to be in the kingdom, but she's one of the money changers.
Yes.
Stealing from everybody, selling salvation in the church. Literally selling salvation in the church. She's literally doing that.
To quote Jesus, not everyone who comes to you in my name is from me, for they will come to you as wolves dressed as sheep. It's actually where we get the wolves in sheep's clothing from. And yes, Paula White, definitely in that field. Kenneth Copeland, so in there. And all of the people associated with him. He has put so many people into the world, from Jesse Duplantis on down, that we could just list. I don't have the time for today. The bakers, that I can't believe Jim Baker is still selling anything, honestly. I can't believe anybody's giving Jim Baker money anymore. But all the way down the line, all the way back in history, all the way back to Kenneth Hagin. And if you don't know his name, we are probably going to end up doing an episode about him, because he's patient zero for all of the problems that we're having today with the prosperity gospel. But these are the people that are out there calling to others. And so two are in the field and one is taken and the other is left. I don't like trying to make this sound like an us against something, even though it very much is, because if this is one of those few binaries in life, you are either helping people or hurting people, because when people are in need and you do nothing, that is hurting them. You can only do what you can do. Again, going back to Jesus, to whom much is given, much will be required.
This is why I like the imagery of bearing good fruit and of the fruit tree, because this is one of those few very binary cases where you're either bearing good fruit or you're not. And by not, that might mean you're not bearing any fruit when you should be, or you're actually bearing rotten fruit, that's poisoning those that eat of it. But in either case, you either are or you aren't. It's very binary, and it works really well as appropriate imagery in this case.
And so I would not argue that early Christians did believe in the imminent return of Jesus. I'm not going to argue that at all. I would argue that they misunderstood all of his teachings, and that even if he said any of those words, that's not what he meant. Because again, it's so woven in that the kingdom is here, that it is amongst us and we do not see it. And that's why when we get to the eventual arrest and trial, are you king of the Jews? Well, that's what you say.
Yeah.
Because his kingdom was not of this world. It's not taking a literal throne. That doesn't serve anyone. You have to actually help people. And if we want to take the prophecy seriously, then the world ended in 70 AD. The Antichrist, the beast's name was Nero. That's when it all happened. And that's not me trying to read into things. Let those who are wise count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. That number is recorded either as 666 or 616. And depending on which spelling of Caesar Nero, because there were two common spellings of his name, one adds up to 666, the other adds up to 616. The version of the Bible that says 616, the name of Caesar, Nero, that added up to that was spelled in a way that counted up to that, and vice versa. Nero is the beast of Revelation. They could not say that openly because they were already being persecuted and it would have been signing a death warrant. So it's very It's coded in there. And if this is Caesar Nero, the events happened. I'm sorry to tell you, the events happened.
And for those who are really fixated on but everyone's going to get taken away and we're going to live in this promised land and this wonderful place. For them, I like to simplify it and break it down and go, well, first of all, you missed who is getting taken away. But if you could imagine you're going about your business, living a good life, trying to be a good person, imagine all the nasty people in your life just disappearing. That would seem like heaven on earth if only the cool people and the nice people are left in your life.
You're not wrong.
I actually sat back and did a little meditation, a little thought exercise on this. If just in a wink of an eye, all the bad people were taken out, like all of a sudden they'd be like, wow, life would be nice. Everybody taking care of everybody helping to feed everybody. And everyone goes, that's just some kind of pie in the sky dream or whatever. And it's like, why does it have to be? Why aren't we working towards making it a reality?
Look, I'm going to agree with you. Yeah, that is
life harder.
I would agree with you, though. Yes, that is pie in the sky. Yes, it is.
Yes.
That's why it is the substance of things hoped for and the essence of things not seen. This is what we have faith in. Look, yes. I have faith that enough people could eventually achieve a state of enlightenment where they are willing to help each other. And this is the universal hope. This is not just the teachings of Jesus. This is the teachings of the Buddha.
Yeah, I was about to say, this is the teachings of the Buddha. Once everyone becomes enlightened, it's all good. It's all good. Like the whole point of Buddhism is that everyone eventually getting all enlightened. And we're all
yes, now. Asterisk, according to, depending on the school you're in, but this is the heart of the Bodhisattva vow, right? I will not enter into my nirvana, into my final rest until all souls are brought to enlightenment, right? This is the heart of the Buddha. This is the core of the teaching. And yes, if the beast were actually defeated, if this unjust system that is keeping us from helping one another, that's causing people to hoard wealth, was abolished and everyone had everything that they needed, it would be a new heaven and a new earth. It would be a paradise. We would take care of each other. And that, in the end, is what we're hoping for. So yeah, this is a very powerful series of chapters, and I highly recommend that you read them. We've only scratched the surface of everything that gets talked about here. Like I said, we could spend probably months just on this day in the life of Jesus. But there's a lot more to come in Holy Week. Tomorrow, I believe we're going to be talking about the Eucharist.
Yes. Yeah, we're talking about the significance of the Eucharist as a Christopagan.
Which should be a fun and interesting time. And what does it mean to turn bread into water? Should we even have conversations about transubstantiation? Is real presence enough, or is it just a memorial? Oh, it's gotta be fun. Nothing controversial or spicy there. So just check back in on that one. It's gonna be a doozy. I would love to know what you think about this, and not just the parables that we talked about on the show. If there's any of the other parables from these two chapters that you would like to talk about, if we skipped your favorite one, let us know. If there's one that you would really like us to do a deep dive into and do an episode on, again, let us know. That we love doing episodes that you all request. If you're listening to us on YouTube, Spotify, or CreationsPaths.com, you can leave a comment right there. If you're listening to us anywhere else, even if it says you can leave a comment, they do not let us know. And so we can't see it. But you can go ahead and leave a comment there anyway, because engagement is magic. And then head over to CreationsPaths.com. Click on chat and you can leave your comment there and we will be able to see it and get back to you. While you're there, if you happen to have a few dollars you can pass our way, we offer monthly and annual memberships. You can also support me on Patreon and Ko-fi. I am CE Dorset on both. You can also support us using the Cash App hashtag CreationsPaths. Thank you to everybody who does that. You really do make all of this possible. You help us keep a roof over our head, food on the table, and the power on. And hopefully we can get to a place where we can not only do this work full time, but either bring some more people in to help us get things out more efficiently, or start picking charities to start giving the excess to, because that is the dream after all. If we've ever said or done anything that's really helped you out, please share that with somebody else. That helps us out more than you could possibly know. And as we're heading out, oh, Blessed Mother, help us to grow in faith so that we might bear the fruit of the Spirit and be true to the way that we follow, that we might develop that patience, that compassion, that true heart of God within us, that we might help bring about the glorious world to come. Amen.
Amen.